year, we built the world's most ridiculous motorcycle with 2 of those 46-inch tires. This year, I'm gonna top that and build the world's most ridiculous trike. And the most important fact here, aside from this tire being 80 inches tall, is that you're gonna sit inside of it to drive this thing. It's gonna be a whole nother level of absurd. Clearing out space in the shop. We're gonna make room for a very big project.
A very, very physically large project. The R1 golf cart has a pretty sticky throttle, and it's probably not the best way to warm up an engine, but it's a way. As you can see in the snow, nothing beats a short wheelbase and 6-wheel drive. That's gonna be our first 3-wheel drive, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've never even heard of anything that's actually 3-wheel drive, to be honest.
Yeah.
Should be entertaining.
How was that?
Well, I could fit both tires on the elevator, but not me. And if I can fit in those tires with a 20-inch wheel, I can probably fit in the other one with a 54-inch wheel. I've been thinking about what to do with these 2 tires ever since I built that. And I finally found an answer. Put them with an even bigger tire that makes them look very small. I guess I'll go the long way around. In the interest of using what we have, I figured we might as well dig out this BMW engine. This is an extremely reliable engine that can actually produce quite a bit of horsepower. And it's fairly compact. It's 2.5 liter-ish inline 6. It looks pretty decent. And there's a ton of aftermarket for it, and it already has a 5-speed transmission, which is also very compact. Like, look at how short that trans is. So, I think, assuming this isn't all seized up from sitting out here for a couple years, it should do the trick nicely.
There she goes.
You think that engine's gonna run? Yeah, you do? I don't know, I'm not sure. It's been sitting outside for a few years.
Wow, that is like solidly frozen.
Yes, it is. Take 2, maybe a shovel. So I was just thinking, I was like, man, all I've really been doing today is moving stuff from one place to another, and then I realized, that's all anyone does. Ever. If you boil it down, our lives are just moving things from one place to another. Junkyard philosophy. Well, here's another thought for you. Nothing ever goes back to where it was. If I throw the shovel up in the ground, by the time it lands, assuming it's in the air for like 1 second, the Earth has moved like 18 miles through space. So from an outside standpoint, that shovel just moved 18 miles while it was in the air. I feel like we're in an episode of Junkyard Wars. And I've always loved the concept of just like, what can you build with what you have? Granted, we're gonna be buying a lot of parts for this too. Because I am a hoarder.
Now that we have the 2 small wheels and tires for the back of the trike, it is time to start hunting for the rear end.
We have 2 Humvees. This one runs. The other one does not. The other Humvee not only doesn't have a steering box, well, because of that, it has no steering at all. So we're gonna have to drag it over here. I thought about like blocking off the power steering line so it wasn't spewing everywhere and then trying to drive it, but then I realized it doesn't have any steering at all. some air out of there. Get more traction in the snow. Weight reduction here. We need to get it all off anyway. Kind of hard to drag a vehicle with no steering.
Yeah, it sure is.
Tires just do whatever they want.
So after a whole lot of kicking tire and high horsepower tug-of-war, we finally got the other Humvee in front of the garage. But now, to get it in the garage, it's gonna be a whole lot easier with the skid steer.
I decided I should probably just get the skid steer, like I should have done to begin with, instead of using the other Humvee. But you know, the Humvee was more fun until I broke its axle again. Anyway, got the skid steer. It ran out of diesel because I keep forgetting to, well, I don't know. I just don't go to town very much. Haven't gotten any diesel. Anyway, so now I got to siphon diesel out of this Humvee to get the skid steer going again so we can push it into the shop. Also, that Humvee ran out of gas as well. And we're also out of gas perpetually. So I'd have to siphon something out of one of the other vehicles, but it had just enough to crawl its way up there. Well, that was an absolute fiasco. The idea is take this entire rear subframe with differential, brakes, portals, suspension, all the good stuff. And I thought of using this because with that BMW engine and transmission, or really any normal engine and transmission, our gear ratios would be way too high to run 46s. But this has portals with a 2-to-1 reduction, roughly. So that's why I started thinking about Humvee stuff, as I was just thinking about the portals themselves. And then I realized I could just drop this entire rear subframe, and all I have to do is make a little itty-bitty driveline that connects this differential to the rear of that transmission, and then the whole rear setup is done. I'll probably end up redesigning these A-arms because they're kind of ugly, and this whole thing's going to be really cool looking, but I don't have to right from the get-go. I can build everything else and then design a new A-arm later on or whatever. As you can tell, I have an extremely stubborn bolt. It's a little early to be breaking out the welder here. Basically, the problem is the backside of this just has these 2 little flat spots. You can't get a socket on it, and a wrench kind of only goes in at an angle, and it just isn't enough to hold it. So I'm gonna just weld that to the body real quick, just lightly. There we go.
I bet those are kind of heavy.
Yeah, they are indeed. I gotta figure out what to do with all these Humvees. We have a bunch of them now. Talk about overkill, holy cow.
Wow.
I've seen lighter duty stuff on a semi-truck. Who knows how many years it's been since these were taken off. 2012!
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's quite likely this hasn't come off since that tire was mounted. It's a chungus, that's for sure. Whoops.
The next step of the process was to disconnect the brake line, drive shaft, and all the small things attached to this rear subframe so that we can relocate it to its new home.
Nice! Man, talk about some dirt with history. That's been there for many moons. Changed my mind. Going back in. No, what I'm gonna do is use the lift and the Humvee that's on it to pick this up so we can put the tires on it. Ground clearance? What? We don't need no ground clearance.
It looks kind of ridiculous.
I mean, it's not like ride height or anything, but it's not that far off either. And that is a ridiculous amount of ground clearance.
With the rear wheels attached to the subframe, the Trike was really coming together, except for one thing, the big wheel. It's one of the only components in this whole project that wasn't just laying around the yard, and we cannot wait to see it.
Excited about this thing. I mean, I've been excited about it for a while, but now that I can see part of it, and I think our giant front tire should be arriving this afternoon. So that's exciting. Now that I have this all cleaned up, I'm gonna go ahead and keep removing stuff that I don't need. Like, for example, these plates here unbolt from the rest of it. That's kind of a satisfying piece, to be honest. I like that.
It has a good look to it.
Yeah. It's cast, too. That's surprising. Huh. So I've been contemplating this, and I decided that I'm going to just remove all of this nonsense here that I had holding these A-arms, because now that it's all propped up on jack stands, it kind of holds itself where it should be. And then once I have all of this removed, I'm just going to take a couple of these and then weld a bar across there that'll hold them in place. There we go. It's a little bit tighter. That bar is just tacked across the top here to hold everything in place. And those A-arms are now held in a position where the tires aren't like completely cambered in. So that's a plus as well.
It happened. We got the call from the freight company, and we have our fingers crossed that this is our giant front tire. But to be honest, we have a lot of big things in the mail right now, so we have no idea.
We got a phone call from the freight company. We're also expecting a delivery from Harbor Freight, so it could be that, but I don't think so. I think it's our ginormous tire. I also just realized we have a 6.5 foot truck bed, and we're picking up a 7 foot tall tire. Should be interesting.
And the semis can't make it up the road this time of year, so we hopped in our trucks, met up with the driver, and hoped for the best. Our delivery was in the very back of the truck, so we had to be patient, which isn't any of our strong suits.
I'm so ready. This is gonna be the coolest thing we've ever done by a landslide, I think.
It's also gonna like probably eclipse anything else we've ever done in terms of hours of build time. In some ways it'll be easier than the chopper, but in a lot of ways it's gonna be a lot harder.
It's actually as wide as the truck, man. It's as wide as the truck.
That is a big tire.
Wow.
But the reason we're so excited is because they don't do the type of farming required to have this kind of tractor in our area. So we've actually never seen a tractor tire like this up close and personal. We had to ship this all the way from the Midwest to North Idaho just to see what it looks like.
Want to come up and look?
Yeah, we'll go take a look.
Now it's a party.
Yep.
It's a party.
We might be exceeding the weight capacity here. The wheel's 54 inches in diameter, so that'll fit inside the bed. Plasticking. Oh man, this is perfect. Oh, it's used. Yeah, it's perfect. All right, roll me.
Oh god.
Oh, that's actually pretty good. Oh, that's uncomfortable. Nice.
What kind of seat are we gonna put in there?
A more comfortable one than that. 320 millimeters wide, 105% of that tall on a 54-inch wheel.
We were concerned with how we were gonna fit this in the back of the truck, but since the wheel just barely fit into the bed, we threw the tire on top, threw in the pallets for some extra firewood, and headed back to the garage. Why do you have hay? Oh, is that for the ducks?
Yeah.
I think I'm far from being a farmer anytime soon.
Well, we have a tractor tire now, so
You have tractor, ducks, hay, Farmer Ethan at your service.
I mean, I did grow up on small-scale farms.
That's funny. Burnout! The tractor's wheels first burnout.
Look at how much space is in this wheel. Like, there's 10 inches right here that I'm gonna cut out.
You could fit two
But I can fit in here right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
How much was it for the wheel and the tire?
It was like $1,700,
That's not bad.
which is the grand total of money we've spent on this so far. And we already have an engine, transmission, rear diff, rear tires. Also,
like a budget
look
bill.
how well this cleaned up.
Dude, they don't make them like they do at BMW. Man.
No, the thing is, this thing only had like 60,000 miles on it when you annihilated it. When
I
Steven
did.
found the clips on his phone. He has some horizontal clips
Oh,
of you
no.
jumping it. The great thing is we're gonna have room for everything on this.
Oh yeah. Like how
A
many
lot of room.
turbos do you want?
All of them. Also, I decided we need to make a couch that bolts back here so you can carry like 4 people. We can take this thing to Gambler and just cruise around. I was looking at it, I was like, man, I don't think I'll ever have to buy 3/8 plate stock anymore. I mean, not that I ever did, but like, I don't use very much 3/8 plate, but that's a lot of stock.
Everything about this build is gonna be crazy. Like, all we're doing is cutting out the inside of a wheel, but it's a 54-inch wheel.
I mean, I had to do something more ridiculous than the chopper, you know? Where do you go from there? Here, apparently.
Safety, Ethan. It's a rare sight.
I look straight out of like Mad Max or something.
Yeah, pretty
Which is appropriate because this vehicle is going to be probably the most Mad Max thing we've ever built. Alright!
This is so weird.
I know.
Like, so let me just reach above my head to soap up the top of this tire.
Are you thinking this is gonna be easy or hard?
I honestly have no idea. On the plus side, now the rim is fairly flexible because the center's gone. So that might make it easier. It can just kind of like, whoop, and then whoop a little bit, you know? I don't know, but here goes. I mean, that did a pretty good job.
That's halfway.
It's a trampoline. So close.
So close. Yes.
I don't want to jinx us, but this is easier than I thought it was going to be.
I don't know how you jinx us at this point. We're there.
How much did you put in?
A proportional amount to how big the tire is, I think.
Okay. I'm going to stand back a little bit.
Yeah, me too. I'm also going to paint a line on the floor of starting fluid to be able to stand back a little bit more. Yeah, perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, and because there's no valve core in it, it didn't even like suck back down. This is a lot more space than I was picturing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's gonna be comfortable to sit in here. You can almost stand inside of the wheel. So, like, if you have a seat that's like here, you know, with the frame and whatever underneath it. Rah, rah! Oh, hi. Hello, Bjorn. You're gonna help me with this? Yeah? Probably.
So you're an artist.
Are you good at it? Bork, bork. Now comes the most difficult part of the build, which a lot of times I just start putting stuff together and then go from there. But I don't know quite where to start on this, so I'm gonna sit here and stare at it with a sketch pad and just sketch out some different ideas of like where I maybe want the tubes to be and what I want it to look like. That was my sketch of the murder scooter. It did kind of turn out to look more or less like that. Not my best sketch ever, but I've got some sort of concept of what I want the frame to look like. But mostly I'm just kind of figuring out what needs to happen for it to exist, you know? So, giant steering tube up here. I'm not going to bother with any suspension in the front wheel, except maybe a suspension seat. If I have room for it, I might add some suspension to the seat itself, because as far as the rider's concerned, suspension of the front wheel would be irrelevant. Like, all it would do is make you move, you know, in relation to the chassis. You wouldn't feel any different because you'd be moving with the tire. Every bit of force going into the tire would still be transferred into you directly, whether you have shocks or not. So that's why I say suspension seat, if anything. So, you know, obviously rear wheels, transmission, engine. I don't know if you're trying to tell me this is a bad idea, but you look a little concerned. I don't know what this means.
I think he's trying to tell you it's time for lunch.
Oh, is it?
Pretty much.
Dang. I was sitting there sketching for longer than I thought. Alright, Bjorn, off. All right. Also, as I'm sitting here sketching, I'm realizing that this is insanely complicated.
Oh, yeah.
I thought out all the major things, the major components over the last few months, and like at least enough to realize that they were possible, but I hadn't really spent a lot of time thinking about all of them combined.
We pushed Bjorn the dog's concerns aside because we are going through with this. Subscribe to follow us on what will be our longest and most complex engineering and fabrication challenge we have ever taken on.